How's it going, YouTube? Yeah, Pat Mack here, coach for the Sacramento Saints / bringing you the draft analysis of the BBL, the Banlist Battlers League. This is Season 8, and I'm super excited to be playing alongside these coaches. This is an upload required league, so you'll see our games on Mondays, as well as a draft analysis today, as well as every other coach in the league is going to be uploading on Mondays as well. So there's a lot of really good content creators here, by the way. A lot of really good players, a lot of fantastic teams that have been drafted, and so definitely go check out the description for a link to all of the different coaches that are playing in this league. Very excited to be playing alongside them in this 8th season for the BBL. Very, very cool to be able to play in this. Couple things about the draft and about the league, just as I kind of get going, and things that I kept in mind. First off, I was the last pick, and I think we had 12 coaches. It's either 12 or 16. I forget which. 16. I'm pretty sure it's 16 coaches. So I was the last pick of the first round. So I had the wheel pick. Something I like to keep in mind for the wheel pick is it's nice to kind of get synergistic picks if you can. Although my draft strategy tends to be around having just solid Pokemon on their own, and that tend to work together more from like a speed tiers typing standpoint, which I don't know, maybe is most drafts do that, but I don't think necessarily. Anyway, that's how I like to think of drafting. However, having a wheel pick, oftentimes it's nice to get really synergistic picks back to back together. So something to keep in mind. Another part is this is an Ubers league, right? This is Banlist Battlers League, right? Like these are Pokemon that are normally banned in most leagues you go to. And so there are rules around Ubers that you can pick up. You can have no more than 2 Ubers, and they're just sorted into a separate tier. And you can use up to 41 points on Ubers, which is going to come into play when I talk about a couple of my picks. So knowing that if people pick up Uber Pokemon, then they might not be able to pick up another one, just because of how the points work out for those Pokemon specifically in this draft. So just something to kind of keep in mind, and something I was thinking about as I was moving through the draft. Okay, let's actually take a look at what my first round pick was. Oh, and actually, before I start talking about Cinderace, which you can see right here, this is what I decided to go in the first round. I'm doing the draft analysis on a pick-by-pick basis. Recently, I've been doing kind of all of my picks at once stage style, I guess. So if you like this style, let me know in the chat if you prefer kind of the all of Pokemon at once and talking about the team as a whole. Let me know that in chat too. I'm just trying it out a little bit differently. But I also want to give a huge shout out to Matt O'Shea, who made the slides for me. Really, really appreciate it. And actually, they did a draft analysis, him and Ultra Player, draft like recap, I guess, on Matt O'Shea's stream, which I will also link the VOD to in the description. So if you want to go check out that, see their picks or their thought process on the picks as we go through them. And that's actually for every single coach, which is really, really cool. I actually just finished watching it, so I got to see kind of their thought process on my team as well as several of the other teams. Very, very cool. Definitely worth watching. Okay, now for our pick, Cinderace. Cinderace, this is Libero Cinderace, which again, most leagues ban. So this is one of our Uber Pokemon. By the time we're here, a lot of people have already drafted their Uber Pokemon. So I got one that I wanted to use, but I didn't actually have to get both of them. And I probably could have gotten away with not picking this up and then choosing something a little later down the line. I did want to get with my lower tiered Uber option, and that way I know the higher tiered option isn't going to be picked up for a long time. And actually I save my higher tiered Uber option for the very last pick. So that's kind of how draft strategy can work, especially for this format, because of that point requirement for Ubers. So Cinderace, obviously an amazing Pokemon, really, really high speed stat. I've wanted to use Libero Cinderace for a little while. I've used the Blaze option before, and it just has really, like, every attack it gets is stab. And as much as it's a fire type, it's kind of whatever type you want it to be. And I think that gives it a lot of flexibility. Very powerful breaker, obviously. A very good speed stat. It gives me a really, really powerful physical option for the team. And I think it just gives... It's a very good first round pick, I think, just because it gives speed and damage output, which a team is always going to be looking for. And so I was really excited to pick this Pokemon up. Now, I have, again, the back-to-back pick. So my pick to pair alongside this was Landorus. I wanted to pick up a... I wanted to pick up a Pokemon that could set rocks. So I'd have like kind of a hazard option early on. So that was part of my thinking behind grabbing this. I've used Landorus in the past. Obviously a very, very powerful attack stat. 145 is nothing to joke about. Like, that thing is gonna hit hard. And so it's a very powerful like setup sweeper. Rock Polish, Swords Dance sets are amazing. Scarf is a very good option just because it has that U-turn momentum. It's a good defensive switch in. It's just a really good overall Pokemon, and again, it has that versatility. It also has the immunity to ground that Cinderace is weak to. The two of them don't necessarily pair up very well in terms of like from a type synergistic standpoint. However, they do pair really well from like having fairly good speed stats and having good braking power and having good momentum. So I like to picking this up early on to pair alongside the Cinderace. Anyway, so it goes a while until it gets back to our next pick. And so the next pick I go along with side those two is Keldio. My team's looking a little weak to water, looking a little weak to rock with those first two picks. So I wanted to pick up Keldio. Again, a Pokemon I've never used before, and I think that this pairs alongside the two of those really well. Again, it resists the two types that we just talked about, the other two having issues with. It also has the momentum. It fills in a little bit of the speed gap between the two of those, so fits that combination and kind of flushes out some speed tiers that those other two Pokemon had a kind of a gap between. And again, like as we build up more of our picks, we'll fill in more gaps and all that kind of stuff. The other side that I liked about Keldio was that it's a very powerful special breaker. 129 special attack stat, very, very strong. And if Pokemon go very heavy into their special defense stat, it also has a physically attacking move with, I think it's called Secret Sword or Sacred Sword, I forget the name of it. But basically it attacks on the physical defense side instead of the special defense side. So Pokemon can't necessarily go like full special bulk against Keldio. They might also need to go into some physical bulk to be able to take that hit. So very, very strong Pokemon, I think, from that standpoint. And again, it also gives me that momentum. So now I have triple momentum Pokemon, all three of them force switches. Very good attack and special attack stats on all three. So it makes for a very powerful pick to go along with those. And the Pokemon I grabbed alongside Keldio was Grimmsnarl. And actually, after I picked Landorus, I mean, I had hell a time before it ever got to me. So after I picked Landorus, basically every single one of my picks for the rest of the draft, I already knew what I was getting. Like I literally had my entire draft planned out. And I thankfully didn't get sniped on any of them. Otherwise, like, I don't know, things might have gone out the window. I got Grimmsnarl to go along with the two of these because I knew I would want to have a really solid dark type. Fairy is obviously an important type to have in any league. So I knew I wanted those. It also has screens, right? It also has screens, it has T-Wave, so like it has Prankster, it has Frisk. Like all of these are pretty solid options, I think, for Grimmsnarl. And I've noticed from the other Ubers League that I played in, the Pack Ubers League, that a lot of times like it's really hard to switch into the Uber Pokemon. Like so many of them have crazy, absolutely insane attack stats. Dialga, for example, has 150 special attack. Kyurem Black has 170 physical attack. Like there are not many Pokemon that are able to switch in from a defensive standpoint against those Pokemon to be able to take 2 hits and still live, right? So it becomes very difficult to do that, and so Grimmsnarl having screens, I think is a very powerful option to have alongside a team. And like those other 3 Pokemon that I picked beforehand, all 3 of them have setup options. Bulk Up, Swords Dance, Rock Polish, Calm Mind. So getting screens up and then letting those Pokemon just absolutely go to town against any one of my other against my opponent's team. They're going to be hard to break down because they're going to have the screens to sit behind and take those hits, and then they're going to get like super beefy in terms of their like Calm Mind boosting special attack, Bulk Up boosting physical, or not special attack, special defense, bulk up boosting the physical defense, and like they might just be hard to kill anyway. And then of course like Sword Stance and Rock Polish from Landorus, like if we can get that set up, like there's not many Pokemon that can switch into that, even if they had screens on their side of the field, you know? So I like the choice of going with Grimmsnarl. If you listen to the draft analysis from the draft stream that Matt O'Shea and Ultraplayer talked about, they kind of talked about this being a little early, and I agree that it would be very early if I didn't know what all of my other picks were. You'll see, like, as I go through and you see how many points the rest of them are, that like this is actually the highest of several Pokemon that I'm getting afterwards. And so I wanted to grab it here. Again, getting that Dark and Fairy type is really, really important, I think, in having in draft. Like, you just don't want to have a Psychic type on the other side just set up on your team using stored power. You know, so having that option here, I think, is a pretty good call. It is kind of nice that it does resist some of the things that Keldio is weak to. So it resists the Steel types, it resists the Psychic types that Keldio is weak to. So kind of pairing the two of those together a little bit, just slightly, with this back-to-back pairing. Anyway, in the next round, I go for Vikavolt. And I have several, I have like most of my team planned out at this point. I decided to go with Vikavolt here because I wanted webs. I think that having those kind of hazards, it either forces prep and like the other team like has to bring some sort of hazard removal, or it sets webs, and then they have to deal with it, right, for the game. And so I think that webs are a really nice option. This, of course, has a very, very good special attack stat. 145 special attack is not easy to switch in on, especially if I'm able to go with like a potential, like I don't have a Trick Room yet. Spoilers, I do manage to grab a Trick Room on later on, and I have run Trick Room in singles battles before to great effect. So that's definitely an option. And having this as like a very powerful like Trick Room sweeper is possible. It also gives me another momentum, so 4 out of my 5 picks at the moment have momentum, and they can get me into each other to continue that momentum train and make it very difficult for my opponents to deal with that. Or it can really just sit in there and hit really powerful Bug Buzzes, hit really powerful Thunderbolts. It of course has recovery on its own, which now my other 4 Pokemon aside from like a Rest Grimmsnarl don't really have recovery. So having Roost on Vikavolt is a nice option to have to fight up against some of those other teams and to be a defensive switch in, as well as has some offensive firepower. Now the Pokemon that I grabbed along with Vikavolt was Stakataka. So there's the Trick Room option. So this kind of Trick Room pairing right here I think is pretty solid. I was really happy to grab these because I think the two of them check each other's weaknesses really well. Stakataka can deal with the rock types that Vikavolt doesn't like to deal with. Vikavolt resists the ground and fighting types that Stakataka is 4 times weak to. And then of course any fire type that would threaten Vikavolt, Stakataka is going to crush with rock coverage. And any water type coming for Stakataka, Vikavolt will destroy with electric coverage. So the two of those being able to pick up back to back I think is a pretty solid combination. Stakataka I think is a really interesting Pokemon, like just because of how its stat distribution is. It's super slow, like a speed of 13. Underspeeds basically every Mon, aside from like the not fully evolved one. And then it has really good defensive stats, like 211 defense, 101 special defense, very, very strong. And then a very powerful attack stat as well. So we have another physical breaker on our team, potentially like a setup sweeper option, which is pretty solid. And being able to set a Trick Room. It does give me another rocker to go along with Landorus, so I get a little bit more hazards going on. So Landorus isn't forced to bring hazards, or I just have that other option. It also gives me a nice flying resist because the electric type that I picked up is neutral to flying. So even though they're scared out by Vikavolt potentially, it's not necessarily a good flying switch in. So I think that Stakataka is a nice combination to pair along with Vikavolt. Okay, and then as I go through, this is round 7, I decided to go for Miltank. Now I know that I'm gonna need a normal type. Like Lunala has been picked in this league, and there's a lot of really powerful ghost types, so you always want to have a good answer to that. So having a bulky normal type is really good. Again, another rocker, so now I have Stack Attack, Miltank, and Landorus, all three to be able to set hazards. It actually has a really good speed stat. 100 speed is really nice. I think many Miltanks often don't run very much speed, however it is a potential option. So like if I wanted to go with an offensive Miltank, I have the speed to outspeed most of the other mons that I'd want to deal with. It also has a lot of different options in terms of being able to heal Bell, so it's a little bit of a cleric for us. It has its own form of recovery with Milk Drink, so we now have Roost on Vikavolt and Roost on Vikavolt and Milk Drink on Miltank to have some of our self-recovery with this team. And then it also gives me a nice ice resist, so I kind of like the combination along with Landorus to be able to switch into those water or ice type attacks that Landorus doesn't want to deal with. So pretty happy to pick this one up. It also has Sap Sipper, although like it isn't necessarily something that I'm too scared about for this team. It isn't particularly weak to grass types overall, but it does give us an option if we find that there's a really powerful grass type that we just need to have an answer to. Sap Sipper is something that we can use with Miltank. To pair alongside Miltank, we grab Dragalge. So Dragalge, being a fighting resist, pairs nicely alongside the Miltank. Being weak to ice and Miltank resisting ice with Thick Fat is also a nice combination there. So I was happy about those. Dragalge also gives us another potential like Trick Room on if we want to kind of do something like that. It is very, very bulky, has very good Spit F, so it can come in on those special attacks, and then I can even use it to flip turn around. So another momentum mon for us to continue to get into some of our pickers or our other momentum mons. Also Grounded Poison, always something you want to have in a draft because T-Spikes are a thing, you know, and you want to make sure that you can get rid of those so that your setup Pokemon can continue to set up. So having Toxic Spikes is a nice option to stop their setup, as well as to soak up Toxic Spikes that someone tries to use it against our team. So pretty happy about that. The slow momentum I think is something that I really value for Draft League just in general. Being able to get in your really fast, oftentimes frail, powerfully attacking Pokemon is something that you really got to make sure you have on a team. Dragalge also has a really good special attack with adaptability, so like even though it isn't the highest in terms of the actual stat, adaptability being a 2x stat boost rather than a 1.5, I believe it is, makes this a very good Pokemon. So pretty happy to grab this alongside the Miltank. I think it adds some more hazards to our team, so teams really need to be scared and concerned about that, as well as giving us some more momentum, I think is also really valuable as well. Okay, so after Dragalge, we wait again several more picks until our back-to-back picks. Next, Cloister is one of those picks again. And you can see after Grimmsnarl, right, like I went 9, 8, 8, 9, 9, like I'm picking up Pokemon from largely the same tiering, so I already had a good idea of what I wanted to go with here. Cloister coming in as this pick is, it's good to have a like bulkier water type. Keldio is a very is really a special breaker, so I want to have like a kind of a more defensive switch in, and like Cloister has crazy good physical defense. So we have the special defense from Dragalge, we have the physical defense from Cloister. So having those two options there as like a physical wall and a special wall gives us a pretty solid option. Cloister also has momentum with Teleport, and Teleport is the absolutely, no questions asked, best momentum move. Being able to get that absolute priority to get in any Pokemon you want for free, just because of that super good negative, I think it's like -6, which is the most negative. Yeah, biggest negative amount priority. So Teleport's amazing. And then it also has a really good setup sets too. So being able to Shell Smash with the Skill Link ability is absolutely amazing to to get those Icicle Spears or Rock Blasts, or I don't remember if this one has Bullet Seed or not. But yeah, anyway, like all of the different multi-attacks to get all 5 of those hits off on something gives us even more breaking power with Cloister, and a very good setup threat. So the versatility of this mon is something that I really like. It can be like a rapid spin, toxic spikes, and spikes setup mon, right? Like a hazard clearing and hazard creating mon, and then a momentum user, right? Or it can be this crazy powerful setup threat with Shell Smash, and then I can just go to town on teams that have that are weak to ice or that are weak to rock even. And then the other side of this mon, which is kind of nice, is Ice Shard priority. If you watched the draft stream, the draft recap with Ultra Player and Matache, Ultra Player talks a lot about how good Ice Shard priority is in an Ubers League specifically. There are so many dragons in the Uber tiers, and having that powerful ice stab priority is very good in this league. So really happy to grab Cloister. The mon I paired alongside that was Lunatis. Now Lunatis is not quite our last pick. We have one more coming after this. But Lunatis was just the last one on the list. I have Lunatis in a VGC league, and its stats are pretty good. It's not very fast, don't get me wrong, it is not fast at all. It does have self-recovery with Synthesis, so it can be like a defensive switch-in, but it can also just be a really powerful breaker. If with Contrary, Leaf Storm, instead of decreasing special attack, boosts it. And Superpower, same deal. Instead of decreasing attack and physical defense, it boosts it. So having access to those kind of moves with the Contrary ability means that this can be a very solid breaker. It can be a good defensive switch in with Synthesis. So I think the mon is pretty good, and I thought it was a good value pick at 4 points, and to actually kind of just fit in with the rest of the draft. It is nice to have that ground resistance. We do have a couple of ground immunities between Landorus and Vikavolt, but having just another resistance is always good to have, just because of how good ground spam can be good in Draft League just in general. So anyway, I was really happy to grab Lunatis for this league, because I think that it's going to work pretty well on the team, and I really want to try it in singles. I've liked it in VGC so far, so I want to give it a try in singles, see if it kind of matches up in that same kind of style is where I think it can be really good. All right, and our last pick, I decided to go with Lugia. Now, at this point, there were a couple of different options. I had put my eye on Lugia pretty early on. Ho-Oh was another option that I considered, but I grabbed Cinderace. I already had like a good fire type. So I wasn't like particularly looking at Ho-Oh, but it was an option that was suggested to me. Ultimately decided I wanted to try out Lugia because I have Ho in my Pack Ubers league, which I actually, by the time this video comes out, you could have seen my week 7 battle for the Pack Ubers league, and you'll see that I'm in playoffs for that. And Ho has been freaking crazy. I love that Pokemon. So is Naganadel. But aside from that, different league, different whatever. Let's talk about Lugia. Obviously a really good speed stat, so it gives us a little bit extra bump between Keldio and Cinderace. Being flying and psychic, it has multi-scale as well, so a very good ability to take reduced damage there. So it can be used to potentially like toxic stall out a team with like a continual toxic and then roost and multi-scale to protect us from those really powerful attacks that could come after it. So having boots on it is kind of nice as well to stop rocks damage. So I think the mon in general is pretty solid. It's got really, really good defensive stats too. Like 106 HP, 130 defense, 154 special defense. Like, this thing is a wall. Like, it's going to be really hard to break through. And because of how much of a wall it is, like Calm Mind sets end up being really good on this Pokemon. And I'm actually kind of curious. I didn't look at this before because I always think of Lugia as being a special attacker, but I wonder if it can be run physical, just because it does have, it actually has the same physical and special attack stats. So I'm kind of just gonna take a look here real quick to see if I could run it physical. I don't know, maybe I'll give it a try throughout the season. But just a good Pokemon, I think, in general. It has good coverage. It has recovery on its own, so I think the Mon, just in a general sense, looks pretty good. And the speed stat is really nice on this one too. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited to be able to use it. I've heard several people say that it's not a good Pokemon, but I mean, it's 23 points, right? How bad can it really be? Like, it's supposed to be good if it's that many points, so we're gonna try it out. We're gonna see how it goes, and I'm pretty excited to use it. Alright, so this last slide has the whole team on it, all the Pokemon we decided to pick for this draft. Let me know what you think of the draft in the comments down below. I think there are potentially a handful of weaknesses on the team, but honestly, like, I decided on this full team after picking Cinderace and Landorus in the first 2 rounds, and knowing that I wanted Lugia, by the way. I guess I had those 3 done in the first 2 rounds, and then from there, like, I just think like these Pokemon work pretty well together, and they have good momentum, good priority. They just have quite a few mons that are fairly versatile, like with a variety of sets that can be run on them. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to use this season. So again, let me know in the comments down below. What do you think of the team? What do you like? What do you dislike? Are there any Pokemon you're really excited for me to use this season? Again, just let me know in the comments down below. And if you're new here, consider liking and subscribing. I do both VGC and singles draft league content, so whatever you enjoy, this is definitely the place to be. Like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And I'll catch you on the next video.